This is the story of Jack B. Yeats. Jack B. Yeats is one of Ireland's most famous painters. Jack was born in London in 1871 and at the age of 8 he moved to Sligo to live with his grandparents, the Pollocks Fens. Jack was from a famous family in Irish cultural history. His father John was a lawyer and he gave it all up to become a portrait painter. His older brother William Butler Yeats is one of Ireland's most famous poets. The two brothers would work together a lot in later years, with Jack doing the drawings for some of William's books. His sister Elizabeth was called Lolly and she was a teacher and wrote books on drawing for early years. She also would become a famous publisher in Ireland and had a company called Coola Press. His sister Susan, who was called Lily, well, she was a skilled embroiderer and formed Dunamer, an Irish craft company, with her sister Lolly. Young Jack loved to sketch and draw. He constantly had a notebook with him and he drew people and fairs and circuses and days at the races. He also would make toys and he would carry them everywhere with him in a box he loved to call the farm. In 1879, when 8-year-old Jack lived in Sligo, his house overlooked a much busier seaport than today. His grandfather was the owner of ships and there was probably a lot of talk of the sea in their house. And talk of the sea meant that there would be stories of treasure, of pirates and smugglers and buried treasure and smugglers that took things off ships, and Jack's imagination was filled with these amazing stories of the sea. Indeed, his own grandfather had ran away to be a sailor when he was a boy, and now he was the owner of ships. Jack grew a love for all things maritime, and he loved the stories, and they were part of his paintings and his books and his poems and his plays. When he was much older, he wrote to the mayor of Sligo once and said, "From the beginning of my painting life, every painting which I have made has somewhere in it a thought of Sligo." After some years, Jack's family returned to London, but such was Jack's love for Sligo that he insisted on staying behind. Eventually, aged 16, he returned to be with his family in London. In London, he often visited Buffalo Bill's travelling show at Earl's Court, and his love for circus and festival and fairs never left him all throughout his life. He attended, for a while, the Chiswick and Westminster School of Art, where he met Mary Cottenham White, who was also an artist and would soon become his wife. Aged 17, he began to earn money for his black and white drawings for a magazine called The Vegetarian. And he began to get commissions for book illustrations and from poster companies. In 1894, he and Mary, or as he called her, Cotty, were married, and they moved to a place called Street in Devon. It was while he was in Devon that he began to make toy theatre shows. Jack would write the stories, create the characters, build the backgrounds, and prepare the whole show, and then, when it was ready, he would perform it for the children of the village every Christmas. He talked about having bigger benches and a bigger opening in the theatre so that more children could see it. We still have a lot of these scripts and images, and some of them were turned into little books. Nearly all of the plays are set at sea, or at a circus, or involve treasure and adventures, and they have fantastic names like James Flaunty and The Treasures of the Deep or The Scourge of the Gulf. He said once about his play, "I write them all myself, so what should I say of them but that I admire them all, but I like the pirate ones best." Paper theatre began in London in the 1800s, when theatres advertising shows would print postcards with characters on them. Children would cut out these characters and play with them. The theatres began then to create theatre sets on posters and allow people to build their own theatre for their characters to play on. This was a very popular pastime in Jack's grandfather's era. They were called paper plain if they weren't coloured in, or tuppenny coloured for the full colour ones. In 1910, Jack and Cotty decided to return to Jack's beloved Ireland, and they settled in Bray. Ireland was a very different country from the one that Jack had left, and it was now in the middle of a cultural revolution. Jack's brother William had founded the Abbey Theatre, Ireland's national theatre. His sisters, Lily and Lolly, had moved from Doonaymer now to form Coola Industries, where they themselves were influential leaders in the cultural revival. In 1924, the Olympics were held in Paris. From 1912 until 1948, the arts were an event in the Olympics. The art had to represent a sporting theme. Jack B. Yeats entered his painting The Liffey Swim, which depicts a famous race held in Dublin each year. He was awarded the silver medal and was to become the first Olympian to win a medal for the Irish Free State. Jack continued to paint until his death in 1957. His favourite subjects were horses, people, boxing, and of course, the sea. He wrote books and plays, he designed sets for theatres, and he was also a poet. He loved model boats, and he wrote a book for children called The Little Fleet, in which he tells the story of a group of model boats and their adventures on the Garavogue River. Recently, the Model Museum in Sligo received a parcel. It was a chest, and in that chest was a collection of Jack B. Yeats's model boats, and also there was a series of paintings that they didn't know existed. When the model boats were being cleaned, they found a little guy, a little character with red trousers and a white shirt, and he's reading a blue book, and he was folded up and hidden inside a boat. On his back was written the word help. Who could he be? Where did he come from? Even this long after his death, Jack B. Yeats is giving us adventures and stories and mystery. And it's our job to continue that adventure.